I would just say, is there anything y'all want to get into? Is there anything on your mind, anything you're working on, anything you'd like to ask before we get into, well, whatever we get into?
What's today?
I'm feeling,
It's Tuesday the 1st.
Oh, it's December 1st. Yeah.
Good question. Good question. To start our things off, what is today?
What is today? Like, why? What is it?
What were you saying, Angel?
oh no, I was just gonna say, like, I don't know, I'm feeling a little like overwhelmed. So maybe a topic that can, like, I don't know, I haven't been able to like deal with stress very well lately. I feel like a lot, and I don't know, I think it's just like there's a lot going on, right? And
Yeah. So
I feel like all that energy, I guess, I don't know.
I do have kind of a roundabout topic in mind. It may or may not coincide. It depends on how you look at things. I would say the overall theme of what I had in store was, kind of realigning with your direction, realigning with what your path is.
Yeah, that sounds perfect.
And,
I actually, sorry to interrupt. I just wrote something down before because I was trying to get my thoughts in line, and that's actually what I wrote down. Like, I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I was like journaling to try to like figure that out. So
perfect.
anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine. And the reason I think it does align is because a lot of times when we are feeling overwhelmed or bogged down or just like stressed, it's helpful to remember where you're headed or what you're, even if you don't know your purpose, so to speak, but what is it that you align with? And so the first thing I wanted to ask y'all, and the floor will be open to share, but you may want to write down the question as well, because you may want to, in fact, I would encourage you to write it down so that you can revisit it a little bit later and maybe dig a little bit deeper. And of course, it's going to relate to spirituality first, but is when you first started on your spiritual path, whether that be through here or through your own practice, through something you found or whatever. But I would say probably a lot more specifically when you really started dedicating yourself to any kind of practice. What were you looking for? And what did you hope to accomplish? So Claire and Natalie, I know y'all kind of just sat back down to kind of recap that. When you started your spiritual path, when you started your practice, when you found something that stuck with you and you decided to stick with it, what were you looking for? And so, you may need to think back on where you were at in life at that time, maybe who your friends were, who your influences were, what you were, again, the other question, what did you hope to accomplish? Again, is reflecting back on that time period of, who knows what. And if anyone would like to share, it would be nice if you were able to think of anything on the fly like that.
I would say, I don't know, purpose is not necessarily the right word, maybe substance, or yeah, I would say substance.
Substance meaning?
Well, and meaning, right? Like, Yeah, just like meaning to life, meaning to like your actions, to your endeavors.
Mm-hmm. And have you had experiences that have provided a glimmer of that in any capacity?
I would say yeah, but it's never enough.
Well, and the reason I asked that, and I already knew that that was going to be the answer, is because that's how everybody feels. So there's a type of, I'm not going to say it's necessarily a story, but um, in the miracles that Christ supposedly did, in the miracles that any of the prophets supposedly did or did do, however you want to look at it, the people that were witness to these miracles were never satisfied. It was never enough to do a miracle, to heal a person, to change water to wine, to walk on water. They want to. It's like you immediately forget it, and then you want to see something else. You want something more. You want something new. It's like, oh yeah, he did that. He hovered, he levitated over the ground. But what about today? What's he going to do today? You're never satisfied, and that is a type of human condition that we need to become aware of more regularly, is our unsatisfaction with almost anything, our ability to have profound experiences, but our inability to appreciate them afterwards, our inability to savor them even in the moment.
Mhm.
I personally have dealt with certain facets of myself that resonate in that same capacity that some of you have seen in one form or another. And it's something I've been trying to work on too, which is trying to just be in the present moment without this need to analyze it in the moment, and even beyond that, this need inside of me to almost try to log what's occurring so that I can relay it to my friends later on, or the next day or next week, or think about them and feeling like I want to share, this compulsory to have this connection in relaying my experience to somebody else has not entirely, but it certainly has played a role in my own experiences and an inability to fully immerse in them because I am concerned with my desire to socialize them. And when someone is saying be present, be in the moment, be in the now, that is going to resonate with all of you differently in your trouble to accomplish that action, because we all have our own trouble with being present. How do I know? Because you can't hold non-thought for 1 minute, because you can't hold non-thought for 30 seconds, and how do I know that? Because again, we all are going through that. It's not to say that you're able to hold it for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, a minute, whatever it is, that it's good, bad, or indifferent. It's all good. It's in your capability to manage your brain to allow you to savor those moments that do occur. And again, back to having a journal to log those experiences gives you a greater capability to reflect and appreciate what you have done, how far you have come, what you have accomplished in your spiritual pursuits. Because I can pretty much guarantee you everyone here is leaps and bounds ahead of other people that start a practice. And the reason I know that is because I've seen other people. I know what's out there and around, and I know just even by their vibration, the difference in caliber of the people that are here than I come across elsewhere. And that's not to say nobody else has good stuff or there's not other high caliber people. Sure there are, absolutely. But when you look at the vast majority, they're not where you guys are. And we take it for granted a bit how far we've come. And that's for all of us here. That there is this, again, back to the beginning, this drive in us that says, well, what else? Well, what else? I want more. I want more. And so the mantra or the thinking behind want for nothing, gain everything has another level of importance, another level of necessity to bring that thinking, that feeling into your practice. When you think about those words, want for nothing, gain everything, it sounds like an oxymoron, but it is the biggest truth that there is. That is when the universe approaches you. That is when you are in the mindset and in the heart place to receive what it wants to bestow upon you, how it wants to connect to you, is when you are open for receiving. And being open for receiving is not to say that you don't have a desire to connect, that you don't have a desire for experience. You still have those things, but when we are in a state of want, then we are never in a state of having. You can't want and have at the same time. Is any of this resonating? Any thoughts from anybody? Open floor.
Some good points.
It resonates with me a lot, yeah, for sure. I have a problem with always, yeah, I accomplish a lot of stuff, and I'm always looking for the next thing to do, and it's always go. It's not, yeah, it's always have a feeling of it's never enough, or if I stop, that I won't be like inspired to do something else. Like if I stop for too long, then I'll just, it's hard to keep on going, I guess, in a way. So it's like always trying to find that next thing to do to keep that momentum going, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be hard or can be very exhausting. So it's like, either you work yourself too hard or you don't work yourself enough. Like you're never fulfilled enough, or you're over fulfilling. So it's like there's always something to complain about, right? Or there's always something that I guess be happy with what you have. And I try to find just be grateful with how far you've come, no matter if you didn't come far at all, because this year has been kind of a drag on everybody. So it's a lot of people still, can't leave their house, and we are living in a state that we're able to do a lot more than most people. So it's just think of it in that terms too. So it's like we have our own battles to deal with, but it seems like we're taking it a little bit easier than California is. So.
Yeah, it feels like I'm on a constant state of like trying to find my footing and constantly like in a juggling act in life. Like I'm constantly wanting to get to the next level, but I know that the next level that I'm trying to obtain, there's smaller levels to it. So I feel like I'm constantly trying to do a little bit more to challenge myself to get there. And for me, I feel like I've come a very long way. Like from when I started, I was basically looking to become something or someone greater than who I was. Like that's what kind of got me into meditation and into just spirituality, was just trying to get outside of where I was. And then once I started that, it was like, this whole magical land opens up, and it's like there's 1,500,000 different things that you can be doing. And with my journey, it started with, lucid dreaming, because that was something that I was really comfortable with, and manifestation, trying to envision something that I felt like I could become just from having the vision and living through the vision in my mind. But now it's kind of like I'm in that vision, and it's almost like I'm in a dream like state, I guess. And yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, what I want to share. Okay, so first, before I read it, I feel like, we're always like told to be productive, but also I feel like it's within ourselves. Like I feel like all of us are pretty like go-getters, and we just always want to become the better versions of ourselves. And then so whenever we aren't doing anything, or like whatever that means, like it makes us feel like stagnant, or like that we are failing in a way. But like you said, like, with meditation, like you can never fail. You just start back up where you like last left off. So like that's like a different mindset than like, like in the Matrix, they're like, oh, if you stop working, you're not gonna have any money. You're not gonna have any money. Then you're not gonna have anything, and then you're not gonna have anything, and then you're gonna be unhappy. And like I feel like balancing like spirituality with like thoughts like that of like the Matrix is like kind of difficult, because it's like we always have to hop from like almost like one side of the brain to like the other in a way. And then there's this poem that I read, and like this is how I feel about myself sometimes. And it starts off, it says, I measure my self-worth by how productive I've been, but no matter how hard I work, I still feel inadequate. And then she did like a dash, and she was like, productivity guilt. And I think that really like hit me, because I was just like, yeah, it doesn't matter how much I work, because I'm trying to prove something to someone, or prove something to my mom, or prove something to myself, but there's like nothing to prove, because you just already are what you are, and what you've done is like amazing, and you've accomplished so much, and you're only going to keep like going up if you have that mindset set, instead of like keep wanting and wanting and wanting, and just like staying with like what you have. I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but I definitely like have like measured my self-worth on how productive I am and how much stuff I'm doing. If I'm not doing enough stuff, like at the beginning of COVID, I was like, I'm sitting around and I'm just like, just studying and doing school. I'm not doing anything, but I was doing school, like, so it's just like really fake thoughts that don't come from like the most genuine place in your mind or your heart.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know, maybe that is kind of, because I definitely get that all the time. Mm-hmm. And that could be like the work of the Matrix, kind of like keeping you, like we live in a society where like that's like the norm to be productive. And like I know that like whenever I was a child, whenever I would sleep in, my dad, like in the summertime, my dad would come in and start clapping, and he'd be like, wake up. It was like 7. He's like, you're wasting your day. And like, like I think a lot of parents do that. And then it's like, it kind of keeps you from just sitting and doing nothing, which is meditating, sitting with yourself, like that's the norm in the world that we live in is to be just busy, and that's just distracting. That's just distracting yourself. So.
Yeah, it's there's definitely a lot of this matrix effect on us that is going to play to whatever's easiest to manipulate you personally. It's I happen to be looking at an old journal of mine, and it sucks in a way. Like, hopefully this doesn't like so disheartening in a sense, but I was looking at some of the things that like I'm looking at my basic goals, which is like eat healthier, do my laundry, do these same like stupid chores that I always like talk about, that it's like, I need to do it every day. I need to, I'm just like, ugh, like still in this kind of matrix in a sense. I still have to deal with myself. And so in a way, it's not like I'm saying it's necessarily a bad thing. It's just something that I noticed that I'm like, oh, okay, like still running that same kind of a program, but that's okay too. Is it, and the way I kind of see it too is like, okay, I haven't mastered doing the laundry regularly, but how many levels up am I going to get in my laundry doing? What's really is that really something I need to be like, denigrating myself over? It's like, no, not really. Like, okay, like maybe my baskets get pretty full, but I end up doing them. Maybe I don't take care of it every day, but it does get done. It's not a horrid mess. It's okay. Like I'm not doing it as well as I think I should because I'm putting some sort of expectation on myself. But do I really need to? Probably not. But where am I growing? Am I growing spiritually? I'm like, yeah, I definitely see myself growing spiritually. Have I had more experiences? Yeah, absolutely. Do I have more friendships? Do I have better connections with people? Like, I think we lose some sight in the things that we place upon ourselves that are things that we need to accomplish or that need to get done. And in the truth, it's, those things are maybe it's not that they don't have their place. It's not that they're not important, but they're not necessarily always important to your development and your growth. And I think that's a better way to look at something, is in how is it molding and shaping you into a better individual, rather than, again, the denigration that can happen on the little things that slip by. And again, it's not about not doing those things. It's not about not mastering those things, but keeping things in perspective in their level of emotional, power that you give to it, I think is something important to keep in mind. So again, back to the realignment that we started talking about at the beginning, and finding what is important to you and your development as an individual. And are you keeping a balance? This is a good time to recheck. Are you actually balanced? And, with spirituality, with meditation, it doesn't take a lot to stay balanced. If you can get in 20 minutes a day, you're gonna feel yourself more balanced. It's like eating a superfood in a sense. Or even eating food in general. We're pretty gluttonous just in general as humans. I know I am. I have a tendency to be. I could probably eat a third as much as I am and be perfectly healthy, probably healthier. But it's kind of the same thing with like prana, with spirituality. It's such a pure form of energy that you're bringing into yourself, that it doesn't really take a whole lot to keep yourself balanced and maintained.
I really like how you put that, because it's essentially our programming, you know, those certain things that like cause us to lose our balance within the matrix. It's not that those things are changing, but it's the way that we're looking at it that's changing over time. And you know, as we go on up a level on our spirituality, those things become less important. Like the way we look at it, it's not like for me, it's always been like my weight. So like working out and stuff in the past. And like when I started this journey, I started it with the idea of trying to, you know, get to a certain like weight loss level. Like that's always been like within my programming, like, or what I've learned over time. And now it's kind of just like, it's something, but it's like, if I feel good and if I'm living in a certain healthy way, it doesn't really matter. It still matters, but it doesn't really take a damper on my life and throw me off track, essentially, like it used to.
Good. Yeah, I think that's a perfect example, because again, we're always our own worst critic, unless you know have some like family member that's like, you know, really mean or something like that, which can happen as well. But typically we're the worst on ourselves. And, you know, there was something I've heard before in the past too, which is, you know, be mindful of the things that you're thinking or saying to yourself, and ask yourself, like, would you say that to a friend? You know, like, you know, Adelie, would you be telling what you tell yourself to Claire? Like, probably not. Like, you know, it's you have to find some ways and means to step outside or behind yourself and look at yourself in the third person as if you are a friend. That is a technique to help shift your consciousness into kind of micromanaging your eyes, or the part of you that is running a program that is telling you you're not doing well, that you're whatever negative things that you're telling yourself. If you can find the awareness to stop yourself when you're going through those motions and those thoughts, and say, hey, hold on, why am I thinking this? Where's this coming from? You know, is this really how I should be talking to myself? Again, it's not foolproof. It's just little things to integrate into your life. Just like we talked about earlier, the wanting and the having, that we're kind of designed to always want a new experience, to want the new thing, to want something more. And the same kind of function happens for the parts of you that you're looking to change, that you're looking to mold into something new. So there is a part of you that is alive, that is the part of you that is denigrating yourself. That part of you is alive. That part of you that's like the worried person, that's the anxious person, that's, you know, that's like, oh, I'm just, you know, worthless. I just feel like crap, or blah, blah, you know, that's telling you those things. That is a part of you that's alive. And when you try to change it, when you try to soften it or get rid of it, it's like clamoring for life. It's going to come back. And you have to, again, like your meditation, when you're battling your thoughts, when you're coming back to the touch, that's why we use the touch, and why it's important to come back to that particular part of the practice if you haven't been doing it for a while, because it gives you a focus point. It gives you something tangible to focus on. That thoughts coming, no, back here. Thoughts coming, no, back here. Oh, I'm off in my daydream. No, back here. Oh, I'm worried about work. No, back here. Whatever it is that comes up, you're training yourself to manage your mind so that or manage your brain, I should say, so that your spiritual mind can actually tell it how to function versus it running its function. It's like you're telling your hand how to function. If your hand was just like, always fidgety or whatever, and you don't even notice it, it's kind of like how your brain is constantly thinking about new things. It's like you may not even notice it. Is it you or is it not you? It's like, well, it's kind of me, but my hand just does it on itself. I don't know. And so that's kind of an analogy sort of way how you're learning to work your mind and how you can, again, take that third person perspective to sort of help you when those thoughts crop up. Again, it's practice, and it's awareness, interjecting awareness into your daily life. Yeah, any thoughts before I go on to something else? Okay. So another question that I'd like you to write down and we can kind of talk about, and or, I think we could also think about it a little bit more after class as well, maybe into this week. And again, kind of some of the reason I wanted to bring up some of these questions is that we've been talking about lately the new year, of course, and setting up for the best possibility of capitalizing on the new wave, the new year, the new you, whatever it is that you're wanting to accomplish. And within that, it's good to start reflecting now, thinking about your intentions, thinking about who you want to become, how you want to be. And so the next question I had wrote down was, what virtue do you want more of in your life? And so what virtue do you want more of in your life? And I'm going to go ahead and say these other questions just to kind of have you write them down, which is, what is a challenge you want to overcome? What is a challenge you want to overcome? And the next question is, what are you most passionate about and want to do more of? So what are you most passionate about and want to do more of?
What was the first question again?
What virtue do you want more of in your life?
What are some examples of virtue?
So virtue is like, hopefully I get this right, and if anyone has another kind of definition, but I think it's kind of like what qualities, like good qualities that you want to bring into your life, like maybe like speaking.
Honesty, discipline.
Yeah. What was the first one you said, Angel?
Honesty, discipline.
Oh, those kind of
like
okay.
that.
Yeah, that was the first one I was going to say. Honesty, like speaking truth, or following through on your promises, let's say, or your commitments. Could be like
Reliable.
yeah, in that same vein, yeah, reliable, timely,
Present.
present, yeah.
I thought you said peasant.
You peasant. Yeah, you gotta be a peasant.
You could say maybe generosity, being like kindness or helping, maybe like volunteering or something like that. That could be maybe, I don't know if that's considered a virtue, but maybe that's something virtuous to do. What else?
Graceful. I don't know if optimistic is a virtue.
Was it like all the
Optimism.
what's the Boy Scout saying? Thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent.
Say that again?
A scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent.
That's pretty much it right there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, in that regard, maybe pick like 2 or 3. You know, y'all are all pretty good people, so it's not like you need to do a complete overhaul on your life or anything like that. But there's probably places that you could do better, you know, and that you can, you know, there's things that you do in that regard, like the honesty or the kindness or the generosity, that and the other ones y'all mentioned too, that it really gives you a little bit more peace inside of you that you don't get from, you know, making more money, that you're not going to get from buying new stuff. It fills or fulfills a certain place in your heart that allows you to be a more full-fledged individual, that when you're approaching the things that you do need to do in life, or your spirituality, that you're in a better place because you're a little bit more whole versus having a hole. That makes sense? So, play on words.
More fulfillment in your life when you have more virtue to act on, or more virtue in your life that you put into the world. Yes.
I shouldn't get the play on words.
So, when you feel whole, WHOLE, you don't have a hole, HOLE in you.
It's a pun. He's so punny.
I have my moments. So yeah, and again, what is the challenge you want to overcome? Were you able to think of anything come to mind for anybody with that question?
I thought of how, well, this isn't a virtue. Or I guess I just want to be more decisive. And, you know, I want to be able to make decisions without getting so anxious, and kind of just like learn which part of myself to like listen to, like which voice whenever I'm making a decision is me. Like, you know, there's the gut feeling, of course, but it's just kind of, sometimes it can get a little like cloudy. So I think that with presence, I'll be able to do that more. Yeah, that's a challenge that I want to get over, because I get really anxious with decisions a lot, and it shouldn't be like that, I don't think.
Well, you know, I shouldn't be like that. There you go again, how you should and shouldn't be. You know, we all go through that, Claire.
Yeah.
everybody has trouble with that.
Mhm.
And, you know, I've said this before. It's not something that, you know, comes from me or anything. I think it's Marcus Aurelius, but it's he always listened to the part of himself that told him what not to do. And you may find that to be a bit easier than trying to decide what to do. And now that's not always an option, but you know, if you're choosing between, you know, two things you're going to buy, so to speak, or but a lot of times you usually know what is speaking to you that says, I shouldn't be doing that. And I think the more that you can listen to that part, because it tends to speak a little bit louder, because, you know, usually when it's something that we want or some decision that we're needing to make, there's so many other factors. It's like, well, I could be doing this, and what if this happens, and then what about this, and that one seems good too, and you know, and again, obviously this doesn't help in every situation, but I think cultivating that awareness with that part should help also those other decisions that you're needing to make.
Mhm. That sounds like a wise thing to do. I will definitely try that.
Yeah, I made lots and lots of wrong choices before I figured out how before I figured out how to make better choices. I made lots and lots of wrong decisions.
Mhm.
It's just, but I made those decisions, and you know, and no matter what it is and what you get out of it, you're always going to learn something from it. And a lot of times they're really bad decisions, but I learned so much from those, you know, but it's just life, you know, it's anxiety's going to be there, you know, and just, you're going to make the wrong decision. It's going to happen, but you're always going to get something out of it.
Yeah. Get some wisdom under your belt.
Exactly.
Yeah. It sucks, but you know,
Yeah.
sometimes the biggest lessons come in the harshest ways.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't always have to be that way, but
Yeah.
It always tends to be.
yeah. Well, it depends on how early you wisen up,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
Yeah.
And you know, for young men, that that wisening up doesn't typically happen till later in life.
We're hard-headed.
Yeah.
Well, that's like you could either like do something and take action, or like just play it safe all the time. You know, sometimes it's
Exactly.
tempting to do that as well, and just kind of like, oh, I'm just not going to do anything, and then you're just like, you don't have that fulfillment. Like you kind of just question, and
Yeah,
so I think it's always better to do something.
those
But
people eat their cereal with water.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a really great point, Claire. Yeah, you know, doing nothing is oftentimes worse than making a bad decision.
Mhm.
Obviously, you know, we're talking in the realms of things that are ethical that are going on, not like, you know, should I rob this person or not? Uh, but yeah, you know, sometimes making the wrong choice, at least you know, like, okay, you made the wrong choice, you did it, and at least you knew, or you know, because sometimes you're just in a stasis for forever. That what does Chris call it? Something paralysis. Dang. I always forget what he says, but I always like it.
Thought paralysis.
No, it's has to do with making a decision.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I don't know what the word is.
Dang it. Chris, why aren't you here?
I always try to think when I can't make a decision. I always try to think what the other person or somebody else would think. I don't always think what I would think. I
Is
would
it
always think,
analysis paralysis?
oh,
That's the one, analysis
like
paralysis.
an analysis process. There you go. Figured it out.
I
Yeah.
have that, so
Yeah, I deal with that sometimes too. Yeah, you know, it's in that same regard. I had a note here as well that I think again it applies to the beginning of the conversation and the whole thing is, you know, that you have forgotten that you are in a prison and you are constantly creating these prisons within and around yourself. That, like I said at the beginning of the conversation, we all create these. Yes, we're in a matrix, but we also create an inner matrix that's filled with these thoughts and emotions. And if you always, and honestly, most people are pretty much in a constant state of believing that all their thoughts and all their emotions are them. And if you're constantly in that state of mind, you're never free. Because, like we discussed, if the thoughts are really you, you would be able to say, I don't want to have this thought right now. You would be able to focus on the touch in your meditation and have non-thought throughout the whole thing. But obviously thoughts come in and try to distract you or get your attention or whatever it is. And that right there shows you that those thoughts aren't you. Same with your emotions. I mean, how often are you, let's just say, at a restaurant and you order a plate, let's say, and you know you put the order in, and you ordered I don't know, like chicken tenders, and next thing you know, the table next to you, the guy ordered like a big steak, and it's like looks juicy, and you're like, oh man, like I want steak now. I can't. Oh man, I placed the wrong order or whatever, and it's like there's your emotions taking over, directing how you feel, how you think, how you're enjoying that particular moment or not. Or any other emotions. I mean, shoot, the advertisements do it to us all the time. You're driving home, and well, I don't really listen to the radio anymore, so don't really have to deal with commercials. But let's just say, for conversation's sake, you know, Popeye's chicken commercial comes on, and now you're thinking about Popeye's chicken, or maybe not even chicken, maybe it's something else. But nonetheless, it plays on some emotion of you. Or if you've had a coworker mention something and then you want it, like, oh, they got new shoes. I want new shoes. Like, I need new shoes. None of that's you. None of that is you, right? It's really not. It's these matrices that are part of your body being, and they're directing you. They're influencing you. Maybe they're not, you know, commanding that you do something, but it's certainly influencing you. Certainly influencing your thoughts. It's influencing how you perceive yourself. It's influencing how and what you are going to do. Again, maybe you do it, maybe you don't. But it can be the friend that says, "Hey, let's do some bad shit." You know, it really can be that. It's those triggers internally.
Let's do it. When?
Exactly.
I'm down to do some bad shit.
You must realize that you are in a prison or trapped in order to be free. And the next thing about that comes into this analysis paralysis or the decision making type of thinking, which is we are burdened by our freedom in a certain regard. We have this, as humans, almost this capability to almost, it's not that we can do whatever we want, but in a certain regard, compared to any other animal or creature on the planet, we can pretty much do whatever we want. Sure, we have our needs that have to be met, the food, the shelter, the companionship, and then depending on who you are, you have certain, say, responsibilities that you have to attend to. But you can choose not to attend to those. You really could. You really could. You could abandon everything and move to another country and cut all your ties and start a new life if you really wanted to. You kind of could. In that freedom, though, it's we're miserable sometimes in that freedom. At least when you're enslaved, so to speak, you have the desire to be free. You know, you have something to kind of look for. But in our freedom, it's a blessing and a curse. But you ultimately have the capacity to choose what you want it to be, whether you make it a blessing or you make it a curse. And I think that's kind of the whole theme of this conversation in a nutshell is, what are you allowing yourself to think? How are you allowing yourself to feel? Because all of those things that you're feeling, you're really allowing it. You're allowing yourself to become fully engulfed in your anxiety. You allow yourself to become fully engulfed in your feelings of inadequacy. You are the one that's allowing these thoughts to permeate your being and make you feel lesser. And you don't have to allow it. You really don't. Again, this conversation, saying these things, I hope it resonates in some way. And I also hope you know that it takes work. Yes, you don't have to allow it. Yes, it's going to come up again. Yes, you're going to be engulfed in an anxiety or a depression, or something's going to overcome you. But you can work on being aware of when it is happening and take actions to lessen that impact. It doesn't have to take hold of your whole day. It doesn't have, whatever it is, maybe you're at a week, maybe it's a week of anxiety and depression. I don't know. Maybe it's a month. We're all at different levels. We all have different things impacting our life. So it's not fair to say that, you're upset for an hour or a day or a week or a month or a year. Hey, year-long things occur. Big things that happen in life that can rock you for a year. But you can move past it. You can start making decisions. You have the power to choose how much of an impact it has on today, at least, on the now. If you can be aware of it, if you can stop in your day and find the capacity to stop yourself from going down the rabbit hole of lesser thinking. It's, again, I've said this for the last few weeks. It's partly why meeting once a week is important. I don't know where else you guys are meeting, if you're meeting anywhere else, or if you're practicing anywhere else, or if you're doing anything else that is like this. But don't take this for granted, because this is your awakening. It's what you put into this as well, is what you're going to get out of it. If it's important to you, make it a priority. If you're gone for, I'm never offended or, whatever. I'm always open to however and whenever you guys are able to come. It's a blessing to me, honestly and truly. I greatly appreciate it. And but for you on your side, what is your priorities, and how long are you going to wait to take actions to awaken, in a sense? What other triggers do you have? If it's not this that's triggering you, at least on a weekly basis, to have some awareness, is there something else? If there is, great. If there's not, you better find it, because it's all on you, in a sense. And it's a struggle. It's a struggle when you're alone, and it's a struggle when we're in a group. But at least in a group, we have each other to check on. We have each other to remind each other that we're on a path, that we are awakening. And you don't have a lot of time. You really don't. We think that we do, but as a spiritual being who has come across this, that is awakening, that is able to think on this level, that is able to resonate with these kinds of teachings, there's the saying that you live multiple lives, and that your soul evolves throughout those multiple lives. How much work and effort did it take for you to get here tonight, or whenever you started your practice, to be able to build a connection with your soul, to have the techniques or thoughts or practices given to you to be able to make that connection? So is it worth 20 minutes a day? So to put it in another perspective, do y'all know how long 1% of a day is? It's about 15 minutes. So is God worth 1% of your day? That's something to ask yourself. Is your connection to, if you don't want to say God, is your connection to your soul, to your growth, your development, is it worth 1% of your day?
Or just are you worth 1% of your day?
However you want to look at it, it's something to ask yourself every day when you're making a decision to not practice your meditation, or versus what? I don't know what y'all are doing. I know what things I do when I don't practice my spirituality, when I don't practice my meditation. Yeah, I don't practice every day. I've been doing good these last few weeks, but I fall off. And it's okay to understand that your spirituality also has ebbs and flows. But you also need to remind yourself that if you're on that low, you gotta work hard to come back up, because again, it's all on you. But it is important, of course, to learn to love yourself during the periods of the low, and to love yourself if you're feeling like you're having a period of isolation. It's like we said earlier when we talked about some of the bad decisions that you made in life helped give you experiences of growth, and the same could be said for the downs, for the low parts of your spiritual progression, that it's kind of all part of the journey to your own wholeness, that like sometimes forgetting, when you come back to it, it's like, oh man, like, wow, I don't ever want to forget again, because shit, I was lost. And you can feel it when you come back. Sometimes you can feel how lost you were. But as long as you keep coming back, and I don't mean here, I mean to your practice, because it's all about you and your practice and how much dedication you want to give to it. Yeah. Any thoughts? Anything anyone would like to share?
I had a thought of this Buddhist like teaching, when you said it, like the 15% is God worth your 15%, or the universe and whatever, you know. When you step back a little bit, right? God is 100%, right? Like, or the universe is 100%, right? So there's this concept of like, there's your consciousness and your experience, right? And like the universe is unfolding with it before you at every moment, right? So I don't think, well, and so like the practice is really meant to extend to like the 100%, right? Like, and that's what we're after, presence at every moment, right? So the like trick or the like flip of the coin is like, you're already there, right? You're already experiencing 100% of it, but it's more like you said, the internal matrix that is keeping you from being fully present at every moment. And I don't know, it's just that like that flip of the switch is really comforting, I guess, because like in a sense you're already where you're supposed to be, right? You're already there, and everything that's like stressing you out is like you striving to be more when you're already enough, right? Like you're trying to be more, and I don't know, we kind of like imprison ourselves, right? Like you were saying, like we're striving after more. We're not like satisfied in where we're at now, but the like freedom comes with just accepting, like, you know, we're already full, we're already whole, and we don't have to like necessarily strive to do more, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense.
Right. I think I understand where you're coming from, and you know, with almost all things spiritual, there's always a duality, which is, yeah, you're absolutely right that you're already whole. You're already part of everything. You're actually not separate. But do you have the capacity, the knowledge, the tools to allow yourself to immerse in all
fully?
And I think that's part of the trick. And the other is that God's here. God's here right now. You don't have to go anywhere to connect to the universe. You don't have to travel to the stars. You don't really have to do anything, but it's ultimate presence in the now. That you know,
Yeah.
and how do you get there? It's by these teachings. It's by connecting and allowing yourself to immerse in it. You're not just learning to manage your thoughts so that you can manage your life. Yes, you are doing that so you can manage your life. Absolutely. It's going to help you there. But you're also doing it because you're really wanting to immerse in all. And when thoughts creep up, that's singular. When non-thought, that's you immersing. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
I think it's just frustrating because like consciousness is, I don't know, like I wouldn't say that I want to be not be conscious, right? Like, but there's a price that comes with consciousness, right? And I think that's where we're at, like, which is good, right? Because at least you're aware of things instead of just like on autopilot. But like I was doing yoga earlier and I was like thinking about like, oh, I'm gonna write down like, I've been forgetting to write down like after each like session, like just to journal that. But I was in the moment, like not being present because I was like kind of beating myself up because I had not been doing something, right?
Yeah.
And so, but then I caught that thought and like, I don't know, I guess that's where we're at, right? Like, what do you do when you catch yourself, right? Because my tendency is to beat myself up, right? Like you say, you should be doing better, but I think we should like honor or like reflect on the fact that we're at the stage where we can catch ourselves, right? We can catch that that's happening, and like we might not be able to do something about it in the moment, but the ability to just reflect and see that happening in real time is huge.
Huge.
But
it's huge.
But it's not, it doesn't feel good, right? Because you're like, dang, I don't want to be doing this, but at least, I don't know.
Well, right. And so that's, again, practicing meditation, it has so many layers of benefit that you don't really know that when you're, again, focusing on the touch and you're out thinking about something else, you don't get angry at yourself. You say, oh, back to the touch. Oh, okay, back to the touch. Oh, okay, back to the touch. You want to be very like peaceful with yourself and very compassionate towards yourself. That that's a very normal thing, that your mind is going to wander, and you catch yourself, and that part of you that's catching yourself is actually you connecting to your soul. It's you connecting to your highest self, because that's the part of you. What part of you realized that another part of you was distracting yourself? Is that so? You're learning that, so that when you're doing other things like your yoga or whatever, and you recognize that you're not in the present moment, it's not that you have to be upset with yourself. It's, oh, cool. I noticed again. Now I'm noticing in real life. I'm not just noticing in my meditation. I'm noticing in real life. And again, that's huge, because most people aren't noticing. They're automating. They're running, pulling the string of their emotions, and they're just getting pulled along.
And maybe that goes back to like a possible solution to the problem that we talked about at the beginning, right? Where we always want more, like we always want more levels, but maybe just noticing is the end goal, right? Like just being able to notice and be present.
It's definitely part of the journey. 100%. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay.
I guess to explain that a little more, because like my tendency is always to like notice and then like, well, what do I do about it, right? Like, how do I fix this? How do I like, but noticing is enough, right? Like, you just notice it and you let it be.
Well, noticing gives
and
you,
I guess
it gives you the opportunity to choose. Noticing gives you the opportunity to, again, you can choose to be upset with yourself. It's like we were talking earlier, when you're in a depressive state or you're anxious or there's chemical factors that occur there, but sometimes we just allow ourselves to succumb to whatever we're feeling. But it's the same thing here.
Mhm.
You really can make a choice. You can choose to be mad at yourself, or you can choose to laugh about it. Like, man, like my mind's running all over the place today, but you know what? I'm coming back to the now. Coming back to the now. Oh, there I did it again. Come back to the now. The more you become frustrated with yourself, the louder it tends to become. The more present it feels like it gains some steam. It's like gaining momentum. If you can find the capacity to be joyful about noticing, to be happy that you are aware, you may find a little bit more success in how you manage it in the moment in your life. Be joyful that you noticed. Be grateful toward yourself, because it's one thing that we talked about earlier, which is we always want more. We're never satisfied with ourselves. We're not satisfied that we noticed. We're mad about it now because we're not doing what we know we need to be doing. And you have to understand that you're going to have days that you're good and you're going to have days that you're bad. There's going to be weeks where you're really on top of things, and then there's going to be a week that you're low. And maybe when those things come up, it's important to kind of shake up your routine, shake up your pattern, see what's causing these triggers, see what's become stagnant in your life. Shift up your look, shift up your clothes, shift up your decor, rearrange your furniture every now and then. All those little things that we talk about doing, they all work on helping you manage your matrix so that it is not stagnant.
And I think, I mean, this is more for myself, but having grace on yourselves or myself is important too, right? Because when you stop and think about it, society's structured, like the energy in the system is driving us towards not being conscious, right?
Yep.
So that we can be consumers or whatever. And we should have more grace on ourselves that it's so hard to even get to the point where we're at, right? Because everything around us is structured in a way to make it difficult for us to be here.
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, you're fighting against Gaia. You're not just fighting corporations. You're not just fighting governments. You're not fighting advertisement. Yeah, you're doing all that, but all that is born from the earth. All that is born from Gaia consciousness and its organism.
Can you say more on that? Like, what do you mean by that? Like,
so again, in a macro sense, everything on you is living, dying, and working, breeding, doing everything for your body to function, to exist, and to grow. In the same way, the earth is doing the same thing. So from its birth to its evolution as an organism, you have to look at earth as a conscious organism. It also wants to grow. It also wants to evolve. It through its evolution, just like you have microorganisms that have been with you since birth, so to speak, in their own evolutionary path. That is to say that there's gut bacteria, there's other things that have had generations and generations of lives on your particular being. They know nothing but you. And they evolved just along the same ways that you evolved. And so in looking at it from the Earth's perspective, all the beings on the planet have evolved along with the Earth, and it is part of its function. And we are, per se, the highest intelligence for the Earth. We're like the neurosynapses of the Earth, and we're making electricity, and now we have Wi-Fi connecting information. So the whole ball of information that is the Earth is Earth consciousness. Yeah, we're humans, but we're looking at ourselves very separate when we say we are humans. No, we are part of the Earth. We are not separate from it. And our thinking, our thoughts, our evolution is not separate from it. It is absolutely part of the organism of the Earth. And so it, as a being, wants to evolve and proliferate life into space, into the universe. So its matrix is for that function. And us as spiritual beings, we are stepping outside of that function because we serve a higher purpose. We serve the universe. We are the white cells of the planet, of the universe as well. We're not necessarily from here. Our souls are not necessarily from the Earth. They're from another, they're from the stars, so to speak. So we are operating outside of that functional matrix. That's what we are attempting to do anyways. We're operating outside of the Gaia matrix to serve God. But we're also serving Gaia, in a sense. We're here to help Gaia's evolution. We're here to help that proliferation of life. We're here to kind of be the, like Ting Shaw, or like, have you ever seen those, what are those
I
musical?
think the image of a
Where you boom,
gardener.
and it vibrates, right? And it's vibrating. And if you put another one next to it, it starts vibrating. So we're like those vibrations, those positive vibes of the Earth. And when we vibe, other things vibe. Other humans vibe. Like, you don't understand the final impact that you have. Like, your vibe is like, it's like a wave going out, and you don't know what it's touching. You don't know how it's impacting other people, and how they're impacting other people, and how they're impacting other people. You don't see it. You don't know. And so we really tend to think, well, we're just doing it for ourselves, but no, you're not. Like, when you meditate, your neighbors are impacted. Your neighborhood your family is impacted. Your friends are impacted. So that's kind of what I mean.
The image of a gardener came to mind when you said, like, we're like working with Gaia, but like not necessarily as like the universe is like on the hierarchy, we're more serving the universe first, right? So as a gardener, you cultivate, right? So you use the systems that are in place, and it's a mutual relationship, but you're organizing the chaos a little bit.
Absolutely. That's a good analogy. So, yeah. Good combo.
Yeah, good stuff.
I think we'll probably call it a wrap. If there's any final comments, you're welcome. I'll send y'all a playlist. Like I said earlier, I always appreciate that y'all join. It's a good opportunity for all of us, I think. I always love connecting with you guys. So thank you. And we'll talk soon.
For holding space, Alex.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah.
Good night. Thanks, Alex.
Out.
Right.
Night.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.